Hi, today I'm starting out in the middle of the journey with Juan. We're at Palma Valley Equestrian Center, and as you can see, we're cantering, and we have this great arena, and so I'm starting back in more of the schooling aspect for what the work will end up being for dressage, or just taking out different pieces in his body that hopefully will allow him to be able to operate at a higher level just within himself while he's carrying a rider. So what am I working on right now? You know, an interesting thing is, as I sort of ignored the contact for a while I was riding in the desert because he had a big kink in his body, and it's always a question of, well, do I undo the jaw to find out what the kink is in the body, or do I start with the body? So in his case, I started with the body because it was so significant, the different, how different he was left to right. And so now here, no one, someone would see a difference left to right or feel a difference, but not glaring. It's more like a normal horse range. He got his teeth done. That was interesting because it turned out that he had two ulcers in the back of his mouth and he had sharp teeth. Now, for a horse that doesn't go on the bit, that sucks. But for a horse that has a noseband and goes on the bit, it's awful. So I think I talked about it in earlier videos. I kind of wonder why he'd periodically throw his head and nothing had moved with my hands or anything. So, because I'm totally happy to own it. But it was like this arbitrary head toss, or there were certain moments that I could see had an expectation, especially like in the trot canter transition. And so I'm just not willing to hold him together. That just isn't my deal and how I approach riding. I get that system, and I know there are times where you kind of have to hold them together in order to show them something. But if he has the strength, the right reach, the evenness in the contact, then I feel like I shouldn't have to hold him together, that I can ride him onto the bit, and then from riding him onto the bit, then I can ride into transitions and figures and exercises. So I don't know in the books what they would call that, but I see that the big subset for riding is literally riding the horse's body onto the bit. And then from there, the rest happens. So with him, I'm really just starting to literally ride him onto the bit, especially now that I feel like his teeth got sorted out. And again, it isn't from negligence. This horse has been taken care of. So he's a young horse, stuff grows. Maybe people have different approaches with dental work. I had mentioned in an earlier video that I was having my favorite dental person coming out that's a vet and a dentist. And so he's a great educator too. And I had 6 horses worked on, and we looked at all of them. And actually the cool part is all the things that I was feeling in the contact and questioning the asymmetries and why are they doing this and holding their jaw and head at this angle and why isn't that happening, it all actually fit together with what I was feeling in their mouths. So that's kind of it's a bummer. I hate to, kind of be right about that, but it's really useful in terms of me continuing to try to be a better rider and to problem solve. So you could see in the shadow, I'm trying to get him to trust reaching out and chewing the bit. So if you were listening, if I'd left the audio, and there's quite a bit of wind, so I took the audio out, you can hear him kind of chewing on the bit. That's kind of a new feature for him. He normally had like a frozen mouth, and the neck was sort of bent around. And that's kind of how he protected himself with those sharp points in the back of his mouth, how he could be on the bit and not be running up against those sharp points. So now I'm kind of messing with his whole system by saying, no, I want you to be supple in the mouth. I want you to have an open throat latch. I want you to reach to the bit and hold the bit and carry the bit instead of kind of overflexing and not really meeting the bit. Sort of like he met the bit by having his neck a little bit overbent. It's pretty common now in riding. I think it's unfortunate when I look at the biomechanics and talk to people like Sharon May Davis and other people like, Karen Osinski who want to try to perpetuate high level physics of riding, biomechanics. So, again, trying to work with those ideas is he had a system, and the system of riding allows that now in the modern riding. If you look at old videos of dressage riders, they weren't doing that. So that's kind of interesting. I have some of those, and I've tried to study all that. Anyway, so for Juan, he wants to kind of hold the bit, which allows him then to stabilize everything, so then he doesn't run into the sharp points, right? I mean, they're not dumb. Every one of my horses had a system for managing what was going on. And I'm not a dentist and I'm not a vet, so it's like, what's going on in there? Is it really just how they were born and the crookedness, or is it because I suck with my one hand, or is it, what is that? But anyway, so for Juan, it's retraining how he deals with the bit, because what you'll notice is when horses have a tension side, it filters through their whole body. You could feel all the asymmetries that happen as a result of the tension just in their jaw. Now, I'm not talking about breaking the horse off my contact, meaning that the horse just is kind of slack and doesn't have, there's a way that you can train them to literally, I think it's a punishing system where you literally don't let them take contact. That isn't what I'm talking about. That is a way to deal with it. And there are moments that when he's holding the bit in a certain way and he's not listening to a subtle let go of the bit thing, then I may stop and say, hey, let go, because he's gotten used to holding the bit in a way that he forgets that isn't how I want him to hold the bit. So then I may have a discussion about let go of the bit, and then once he lets the bit go, the bit hangs in his mouth in a different way. And when the bit hangs in his mouth and he's reaching in his neck and through the base of his neck and over his back and all that to the bit that's hanging, it's a very, very, very different feel and relationship to the symmetry and asymmetries in his body. And again, one of the questions we've had is, look, you can see the tracking camera. I'm making progress. The tracking camera is off to the right, the solo shot camera. I'm working on getting lateral views of what I'm doing with riding. And now I'm in an arena with less dust and no minis to knock it over. So I now have to understand how to I've uploaded the file, how to open the file. So it means a call to Apple. Anyway, the tracking camera is working. It was tracking me. So there will be some lateral views of riding because I know that's been a request. And it's been on my to-do list. Anyway, so when the horse is holding the bit, or carrying the bit, or the bit's hanging in the right place, it's very, very, very different. And so one of the questions that we had with Juan is the way he plays with the toys all the time. He gets used to holding things with his jaw. So I don't know if that's part of the history. I think the teeth were part of the history. So now he's a very, very smart horse. I'm sure we can work out that he carries the bit and doesn't hang on to the bit to carry it. And again, so anyway, that's what we're working on. You get a little visual of the ranch. It's a beautiful ranch. The footing is nice. They're taking care of the arena. And you can see bits and pieces of the shadow that I'm working again on that basic piece of the neck reaching. Now I've cantered. I'm trotting on a longish rein, well, I should say, and I'm encouraging him just to trot, to finish his work in the trot, and then we'll make a transition to walk and that's good for today. So I'm pinpointing the contact. His body's stronger, his canter quality is getting better. So this to me is another step in the refinement of putting everything kind of back together. And it's been great with the owners to be able to problem solve things like teeth and, you know, all of that, because it makes my job easier to understand if there's a reason the horse is in kind of resistance or not. And again, Juan is just a really, really smart, willing young horse. So I tended to think there may have been something going on there. And with young horses, they get sharp teeth. So we have to look after that if we're going to have them having a bit in their mouth. It's a big deal.